David, from last week, you were supposed to talk to us about ISP Finance and Dolla Financial as well. They've made some major changes. What's going on?
So I believe it was about probably 2 or 3 weeks ago that ISP would have announced to the market that they would have acquired a $1.2 billion loan portfolio. You know, I mean, that's an unsecured loan portfolio, and they didn't give any additional context to, what happened. But we saw a massive spike of ISP from about $21 to about $38 in less than a week. It's come back down a little bit, and during that whole period, we also heard from ISP. Well, we saw ISP publish their results. So for ISP, their Q4 wasn't so hot. There was a significant dip, or just significant, but probably a 20% dip in interest income. And for the overall net profit, it was down 95% from $26 million to $1.28 million. That's for Q4. For the overall financial year, it was on about 5% from 55 million to 56 million, but that's when I'm using the unaudited numbers. But when you use the audited numbers, profit is down from 66 million to about 56 million. So down about probably around 14-15% year over year in terms of profitability. But it should be interesting to see what ISP does going forward in terms of this new loan portfolio and what it should give them in terms of opportunity for growth. So, the company is set to have its AGM on March 18, and I'm looking forward to hear what's the plan going forward, because one of the issues that I, saw for ISP, especially after COVID, was that their NPL ratio was pretty high. To simplify that a little further,
Even
NPL
for
meaning
the
not
industry? Even for the industry, it's pretty, because they're microfinance, no?
Kalila,
Doesn't
their
microfinance
NPL
have...
ratio. The NPL ratio was, I believe it was last when I checked, was around 21% for 2023. And before that, it was around 34%.
But doesn't microfinance have higher non-performing loans than, say, a JMMB or a Sagicor?
Typically,
So that's
yes.
what I'm asking, even for the industry. So, like, how would that compare to, say, Dollar, for example?
So let's give some context. So while the BOJ, has regulated is in a sense of regulating, because they're still, having their licenses processed. In terms of the BOJ regulating the microcredit industry, there's not any data sets out there in terms of the depth of loan quality. So, the size of the loan books, the level of disbursements, but we don't have what you'd call like a quarterly publication saying, hey, this is the financial stability of that sector. For the DTI space, deposit institutions, their NPL ratio is around 3%, around probably 3.2%. And that's just me getting out of my head. I have to check the BOJ's most recent data to know where it really is. But, one thing to consider for the commercial banks is, as their loan balances continue to grow, and the fact that some of these banks also write off their NPLs or sell them to companies, like an ISP, their NPL ratio will kind of always be static. For a Dolla Financial, they, have seen an increase in their NPL ratio around, it was 8% in 2023 to 9.9% at the end of 2024. Now, one key difference for Dollar versus an ISP is that about 84% of Dollar's loan book is secured by some other asset. ISC's loan book is mainly composed of unsecured loans, mainly to individuals. So you guys think, Kalila? So like you don't have that general data set out there to rely on. And I believe, when I checked on Access, their NPL ratio for March 2024 was around probably 6%. And that's for the company, so not for the consolidated group. So, and remember that Access is the largest player that is publicly known. So Access's loan book is over $7 billion right now. Dollar is at $4 billion. ISP is now at effectively $2 billion with their most recent acquisition. So for the larger guys, they have a little more diversification, and at the same time, they've benefited, from what you'd call better relative scrutiny to keep those NPLs down. So that's just to give some context on NPLs and dollar and ISP. So
Yeah,
ISP's age was
yeah, I
go
don't.
ahead, Kalila.
Well, since you said that dollar is mostly secured loans, they have some form of security. I don't think you can really compare them with ISP either, because people don't want to lose their security, so they're more likely to pay back the loan.
No, and that is why I just gave that context there to kind of show that for me my concern with ISP is really loan quality. So if with this most recent loan acquisition, what's the quality of the book? So
Mm.
come next year, ISP will be 10 years listed on the junior market. March 26, 2026 was when it listed. So March 2026 they're going to lose their tax remission. So this is the last year the company is going to benefit from a 50% tax remission. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do come next year. And let's I guess can switch back to dollar. So in the case of dollar, they had a pretty good financial 2024 financial year. There was a 8% growth in net profit for Q4, 12% growth in net profit for the full financial year to $453 million. And one key thing to note about dollars full year was that their loan book surpassed $4 billion. Just to give some quick synopsis or context, dollars loan book was around probably $750 million in 2021 before they went public on the JSC's junior market. So from 750 at the end of 2021 to $4 billion, at the end of 2024, it's quite a considerable level of growth in that short period of time. And the company says they're looking to grow to $6 billion in loans this year. They're looking to list their subsidiary, Ultra Financier, on the junior market. So they have a lot going for them in a positive sense. And what we're also seeing is that Mayberry and in this case other related parties are I shouldn't say creating, apologies, they're buying a bigger interest in dollar. So Mayberry Group Limited, their subsidiary Widebase Limited owns 14% of dollar. MJE currently owns 11% of dollar. Then we saw, PW Bamboo Holdings, KMB Holdings Inc., BWSD Limited, BDWSD. Those are holding companies connected to Chris Berry, Gary Peart, Conrad Berry. They each bought 23 million shares of dollar, last quarter, which is a little under 1% each. And we shouldn't forget that SVL also has a 15% stake in dollar. And remember that Gary Peart is also the chairman of SVL. So you're seeing more convergence in dollar, which is this fast rising, loan company, which is mainly getting most of its growth here in Jamaica in what you can call a competitive market. Because one thing
Jason says dollar has the berry stamp, and I'm yet to see him lose. Don't count them out.
and I was going to say is that I think about it just a while ago. ISP mentioned that in the sector or their space is more competitive, and their customers are actually balling to them for lower interest rates. So to see such interest, by Mayberry, which previously had a massive stake in Access Financial, to take the stake in dollar, which is growing astronomically, it's pretty interesting.
And thanks to Jason again for doing some research for us. He said he got a quote from Gleaner, a Gleaner article that says dollars non-performing loans hover at around 9%, but the CFO said it still stood below the industry average of about 16%. So industry average 16%, David.
So ISP is really above the industry, pretty far off.
Well, the 30 odd, yes. 20
Well,
odd.
it doesn't matter. 20% able to be non-performing is quite a problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a bank or if you're a microcredit institution. They even want to have an NPL ratio above 10%, not just 20.